Can't help but love the little things when they're all that you got. And as long as I remember that, I'll be happier than not. Because when I lost everything, I saw everything ain't a lot. So you'll find me feeling free, drinking white elderflower tea, oh yeah.
Little things can't help but love the little things.
You'll find me feeling fine, sipping mint, strawberry wine, oh hey.
Little things can't help but love the little things.
Birds are singing in the trees, and the river's running clear. There's a little more sun every day, there really is nothing left to fear. You can't help but feel good, hey, every single spring, every year. So you'll find me feeling free, drinking white elderflower tea, oh yeah.
Little things can't help but love the little things.
You'll find me feeling fine, sipping mint, strawberry wine, oh hey.
Little things can't help but love the little things.
Blossoms falling off the trees, looks like snow on the ground. Corn is growing fast and tall, new life has been found. Can smell the growth in the air, and I feel like a king who just got crowned. So you'll find me feeling free, drinking white elderflower tea, oh yeah.
Little things can't help but love the little things.
You'll find me feeling fine, sipping mint, strawberry wine, oh hey.
Little things can't help but love the little things.
Can't help but love the little things when they're all that you got.
Little things can't help but love the little things.
And as long as I remember that, I'll be happier than not.
Little things can't help but love the little things.
Because when I lost everything, I saw everything ain't a lot.
Little things can't help but love the little things.
Oh yeah, yeah, when I lost everything, I saw everything, won the whole damn lot.
So I'm joined with Lewis, aka Lew Bear, and this is probably the strangest introduction because it sounds like I'm introducing myself. Thank you very much for coming onto the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
And obviously with such short notice as well, I think I let you know on about 3 days ago. So do you want to be on the podcast?
Yeah. Well, I think originally it was going to be a bit more of a gap, wasn't it? But yeah, I'm always I'm best when I'm unprepared.
Well, there we go then. That's not too bad then. But yes, it's so yeah, thank you very much for coming on the pod. Let's just jump straight in then to this new album that you're going to be releasing. Firstly, when did the idea of recording this album start? Obviously, your last album was a few years ago. Did you start having that itch again to produce and write and record another album?
Well, I'm always writing. I can't seem to stop that no matter what. And it's just over time, I start looking at the songs and patterns seem to form. And I noticed a pattern that there was a lot about, like I say, about my spirituality, about the philosophies that I believe in, and things like that. And so, since there was a couple of songs that use sort of like references like light and dark and death and stuff like that, I thought, oh, there we go, love and light, dark and death, and there's a kind of like a theme. And so I just kind of like clumped all these songs together, basically, that had already presented themselves.
Okay, interesting. So you basically had a concept for the album pretty much from the get-go.
Well, yeah, I saw the concept and then just ran with it, if you know what I mean. It presented itself to me, and yeah, then I kind of like spotted it and just worked with what I'd been given, essentially. I don't know whether that sounds odd, but yeah, sometimes it feels like I'm not writing the songs. It's just they're just what happens, what I happen to grab as they pass by.
Okay, that's very interesting. So do you want to elaborate on this love, light, dark, death thing then for me?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's to me they're kind of like four of the because everyone always sort of talks about, light and dark and everything, don't they? Like, and they're being the kind of like the equals. You have the yin and the yang and stuff like that, and so obviously they're two sort of like main components of what you might call life, and then yeah, you've obviously got like then love and death, which are pretty much sort of opposites in a way as well. And so as soon as I got the concepts of the songs just seemed to be those concepts, and it just seemed to be summed up in those 4 words, just love, light, dark, and death. So I just, like I say, I just ran with that, and then like I say, started to maybe focus a little bit on that kind of thing, and then write a couple more songs along that line, just to sort of like fill it out a bit more. But yeah, it certainly wasn't something that I sort of like envisaged. I just, like I say, and very rarely do I envisage things. I just run with whatever is happening at the moment, and then see where it takes me.
Okay, that's very interesting. So, so I've been listening to parts of the album. I've had a sneak peek listen, and so I was just wondering who actually helped you make this record. So I can see some backing vocals. Where quite a lot of releases these days are sort of self-taught with different instruments, and whether you recorded and mixed the album yourself, or did you have somebody else do it for you, and with the other instruments as well that were featured on this album.
Yeah, I mean, I recorded and mixed it myself, but I got my friend Martin Giles to master it. He is really superb. I don't know how he does it so subtly, but makes such a profound difference at the end. But yeah, the other people involved, the backing vocalist, who I couldn't pretend was me, is Debbie Joins. She plays in a band called Immineur. And yeah, she's got a fantastic voice, and they're a really good band as well. I recommend you check them out.
I feel like I've heard them before for some reason, but I will definitely check them out.
And yeah, aside from that, I had friend Tim Brown play bass on about half of the album. He's someone I've known since sort of like year dot. We grew up in primary school together, and we formed our first band together. He'd sort of just started playing bass, and another friend, Tim George, had started playing guitar, and I picked up the drums, and we just sort of carried on from there. And we've been in and out of different projects musically ever since.
Okay, that's a nice one. So, of what kind of things were you playing in these early day bands with the 3 of you?
It was a little bit different back then. It was kind of grunge and punk and stoner rock and stuff like that.
That sounds familiar, to be fair. That was pretty much me, but the 2000 emo rock stage was definitely my era, full of My Chemical Romance, Paramore, Fall Out Boy, all those bands just breaking through the scene. And I can imagine actually that was good fun though, playing those sorts of songs.
Oh, it's fantastic, and particularly on the drums as well, which is where what I played at that point. Yeah, I mean, some of those, particularly the stoner rock, the rhythms within that were really good fun to play.
It's strange 'cause I've come from drumming first to then guitar afterwards. So what got you into playing guitar?
I basically just sort of started playing guitar, just sort of like picking it up and playing around with it a little bit here and there. And I was playing percussion in a Celtic folk band called Cross the Border. And when that project finally ended, I moved back south down to where I live now, Daventry, from Edinburgh. And I didn't have anyone to play drums or percussion for. And so I just started playing the guitar more, and ended up now I'm at this stage where that's basically what I do.
Okay. Yeah, it was the same with me really. I sort of decided to just pick it up, played a few chords here and there, and sort of quite enjoyed it. But I can imagine, did you play you said you didn't play the drums on this album, but have you played in previous ones?
No, I did play the drums on this album.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Well, except for a couple, there was a couple that were actually electric drums. Because what I did was for most of the album, I set up sort of like electric drums to play along to, which then I had plans to sort of like replace with real drums or percussion, depending. But yeah, there was a couple, and Shine a Light was one of them, which no matter what I did, I couldn't make it sound any better than this basic electric drum loop that I'd played along to. And so I thought, well, it's just meant to be. I'll just leave that as it is.
Sometimes that's the best thing to do, is just leave things as they are.
Yeah.
Funnily you say about Shine a Light. My next question was going to be that I noticed listening to the album, you're quite a clever riff writer, and in the songs such as Shine a Light and Little Things as well, I can sort of pick up on, and I can hum very quickly to the riffs of those songs and some of the others on the album. What's sort of the songwriting process for you with these sort of guitar riffs?
Well, Shine a Light. So I work in adults with learning difficulties, and we often do a lot of music sessions together. And one time, there's a lot of musicians actually work in that field, and so one time there wasn't any of the guitars left in the music room except for this pink guitar that had 2 strings on. And so I just started, what can I do with this? And I was just kind of just fiddling around, and suddenly I came up with that riff. And
that's a pretty cool story, actually.
Over time, yeah, it became I kind of, if I kind of want to have that pink guitar for myself now, but it's still not owned by me.
You should have tried to borrow it for the recording of the song.
Maybe, or definitely for the video.
Yes, definitely for the video. That's something that's happening now. So with these guitar riffs, do you just instantly just try and fiddle around and just see what's working, what's not? And do you record, do you have like individual recordings to think, okay, this is one thing I can work with, and then stop and then play another one and try and record loads and loads of different bits? Or is it just whatever comes to mind?
It's largely sort of organic processes for me. I tend to just sort of like play things, and over time, like songs start, well, a lot of my songs are very simple even after they've developed, but they start off very simple, then I keep playing and I just add over time, usually through making mistakes. Actually, it's kind of like, cock up, and then it's, actually that cock up sounded good, I'm going to keep doing that cock up, and I just keep playing. And over time, I mean, some of my older songs, that I still play now, they have that much more richness, where just little dynamics, little extra stops and little build-ups and stuff get added over time. And so I really like just letting things sort of develop naturally.
Oh, good. Well, that's what I like to hear. So with all of this in mind, how did the lyrics intertwine with these riffs then? Are they, obviously you talked about love, light, dark and death. And are these sort of personal experiences that sort of turn into stories that you want to tell? Or are they sort of fictional stories that you wanted to create yourself? Or have you read them in a book or something like that?
It varies. Rumpelstiltskin, for instance, that's obviously quite a story-based one, so I don't know whether that's one you're referencing there. Mm-hmm. I was playing St James Infirmary, because it's got that same chord progression, and I was playing it, and I was like, I really enjoy this song, but I just didn't connect with the lyrics enough to really feel them while I was singing them, and I was just sort of, but I really love this song, why am I connecting with them? And then I just sort of put the guitar down, and suddenly I had the basic idea. I'd been watching the series Once Upon a Time, so I think that was what had sort of like got the Rumpelstiltskin in my head. It's not a story of Rumpelstiltskin within that, but it obviously got it in mind, and then it pretty much came out in one. A lot of my best songs do come out in one. It's like I'm not even thinking about it, and it just kind of goes boom, 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 and then it's done. The amount of times where I've spent days and weeks, sort of like carefully crafting lyrics, putting them together, then playing them to someone, and they just go, "No, that's rubbish, Lewis." And well, there's this one that I just sort of like fell out, and they go, "Oh, I really like that one." And I go, "Damn!"
It's just a naturally good song that you've just plopped out of nowhere.
Yeah, basically, if they don't just happen, I mean, there are a couple of exceptions, but generally, if they don't just happen, they're no good. So yeah, I can't really explain much about how I do things, because it just happens.
And then that's how the songwriting process goes for you, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, are there any of the other stories within the songs then? Sort of, what's the most interesting story you've got to tell from this whole album?
Ooh, yeah. Well, what's the most interesting story I can tell without sounding like too much of a weirdo?
There's no such thing, to be honest.
The Wanderer, probably a good one. Doing a lot of meditations for a while, and I can never fully tell what my beliefs are. To be honest, I'm still sort of exploring, but connecting with things that might either be facets of my subconscious or they might be guides or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But either way, they told me this tale of a past life of mine where, yeah, I'd died feeling too ashamed to pass on into the light, and so instead wandered the earth, and all the things I'd seen while I was in that state, and and then the song basically came out of that meditation. Like I say, I can never tell whether I believe it or not myself, but I like to think it's real.
Yeah, and you've got a story to tell from it as well, and that's quite an interesting one actually. It's just I've never really thought about sort of like a past life or something like that, but I probably would be quite interested just to see what they would have to say, regardless if it's true or not, or if it actually did happen. It's just something that you can curiously think about for a little while and sort of ponder, and then potentially, like you've done, get a song out of it. So you can describe it and explain it in a way that to some people might not understand it, but to others, when you tell the story, it means something completely different. There's a woman who I interviewed, Hannah Scott, a couple of weeks ago, and some of her songs made much more sense to me personally after she'd explained them to me, and I feel like that's just down to very good songwriting. It sort of leaves you pondering and leaves you wondered what actually is going on in this song until they actually let you know what's happening. You think, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Like I say, sometimes I like that kind of thing where, like I say, we have that little bit of mystery. Other times I like to be, pretty much sort of straight up, straightforward. It's once again not always something I have much choice about, because, like I say, these things, like I say, sometimes just come. But yeah, it is like I say, in terms of that, it's something that I sort of referenced in Going Home as well, where I kind of referenced that this is kind of what I believe, but at the same time, if it's not right, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And it's something that I find quite heartening where, if all my beliefs about, say, reincarnation and various guides and stuff are real, then it's fantastic. It's brilliant. We get to do all these things over and over until we get it right. And if it's not, then it doesn't really matter. I've had a good time and it'll go into nothing at the end. It just doesn't matter either way.
Yeah. No, that's very true. I completely agree. It's one of those things where you think, I'm not really too fussed what happens. Either way, just be as positive as you can be, really.
Yeah, I'm either happily mad or there's good stuff going on for real.
So let me tell you about the most innovative approach to new music that exists today. Revival Recordings, an artist-first record label based out in North Carolina, and has introduced Revival 52, a commitment to fans to release new music every Friday for 52 weeks of 2018. From metal to pop punk to indie rock, Revival 52 will be bringing something new for you to enjoy every Friday. And right now, Revival are actually giving away a free Amazon Echo to one lucky fan once they hit 1,000 followers on their Revival 52 Spotify playlist. Just go to ffm.to/Revival52 and follow their playlist to enter there. So do go enjoy great music from your new favourite record label for free right now. That's Revival 52 on Spotify, and that's ffm.to/Revival52. So moving on to the song Oh Death. It struck me as quite a haunting sounding song, very different to the rest of your album. Did you have doubts about putting this song on the record with it being so different?
Well, that's a traditional song, that one, and it came up in a list. Someone posted an article of top 10 darkest folk songs of all time, and I think I'd already played about 5 of them. So I suddenly what ones are left then? And I sort of like popped through that and just sort of like came up with my own arrangement, my own interpretation of it, which is basically what we've got there. And then ran with it, and I thought that it was a good counterpoint to a sort of like, because a lot of the album is quite upbeat, quite positive, and while I like that, with an album called Love Like Dark and Death, you need a counterpoint, and I thought that made a really good sort of like counterpoint to that. Although, as you say, I do kind of expect it to be a Marmite song. But out of the few people who've heard it in advance, there's a few people who've said like, no, I don't like that. But I've had two people say that that's their favourite song off the album. So it obviously divides people, and it's better that than having a lot of people being indifferent.
I would completely agree. I mean, sometimes you have to sort of push yourself, don't you, to try and find a song that can challenge not only yourself but also the listeners as well. There's a song that I'm going to reference here called "The Lifeboat" by Frank Turner, and from his recent album "Be More Kind," which is an album about being happy, everyone being kind to each other, loving to each other. And this one, instantly when it comes in with the guitar, has a very dark feel to it, and even Frank is sort of singing in such a monotone voice and such a quite devilish act to it, because he's not really putting much emotion into it like he normally does. It's very different, but it's probably one of, if not my favourite song on the record, just because it's so different. And I think this is the same with Oh Death. I personally think it's one of my favourites as well.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, I'll have to check out that Frank Turner album. I really enjoyed some of his earlier stuff, but I wouldn't say I didn't enjoy the later stuff, but I just kind of drifted away. That does sound like an interesting album, so we'll have to check that out for myself. Thanks.
Yeah, it is more sort of major record label pop driven, but there are a couple of songs: 21st Century Survival Blues, Brave Face, The Lifeboat, 1933. All of those are definitely still with sort of the traditional style that he writes, but The Lifeboat was definitely one I thought, oh, this is interesting. And the lyrics in it are just insane. They're so good. So yeah, if you do go check it out, just let me know what your thoughts were. Yeah,
we'll do. In fact, going back a page before I forget again, there was one other musician that I haven't referenced, and that was John Duffy, who played bouzouki on Rumpelstiltskin. I just didn't want to leave him out because he's such a fantastic musician, and he lifted that song up so much. I just didn't want to forget because it killed me.
So enlighten everyone what a bouzouki is to people who don't know what it is, because they're probably thinking, hang on, what's that then?
It's an 8-stringed instrument, 4 pairs of the same strings at different octaves. So you've got, say, I can't remember what the tuning is, but say you've got 2 E strings, 1 bassy, 1 trebly, bit like how a 12-string guitar works. I believe there's several countries fighting over which country it originally came from. I know there's a lot of Eastern European countries and Greece as well, and Ireland as well, all say this is our instrument. But it's got a lovely rich sound, particularly for those lead parts and that sort of vocal phrasing. It's fantastic. He does some amazing gypsy jazz on his own stuff, and it just sounds so unique. It's an instrument I've tried to learn myself, but maybe I should have given it more time, but it just didn't work for me.
Well, I mean, an 8-stringed instrument, it does sound quite extreme in a way. So to try and relearn how it works and how the sound should be and what sort of tuning you need all the strings to be. So I'm assuming you said that there was a bass and treble E. You probably could go for a bass and treble G or something. May really spice it up.
Well, yeah, I mean, you play it like a 4-stringed instrument, but there's 4 pairs of strings.
Okay.
So it's just sort of like the 2 sit on top of each other. So it is like a 4-stringed instrument, similar to, say, a mandolin or a mandola, but slightly larger.
Okay, interesting.
As with a lot of those instruments, I find them the neck's just a little bit too narrow, and too many of the chord shapes stay the same, and then my hand ends up screaming in pain at me. So I have to stop. For some reason, the ukulele, even though it's about the same size, doesn't bother me like that. I guess probably because it's nylon strings, and so it's a little bit softer on my slowly arthritic developing hands.
So I was actually going to come on to the ukulele. We're jumping ahead a few questions, but that's fine. So obviously the album features quite a lot of ukulele. Was that always the intention for this album, or is that just an instrument that you enjoy playing quite a lot in your spare time?
it wasn't a plan from the start of it. At the start of it, I hadn't, really played a ukulele except for picking one up here and there and passing. But going back to our bouzouki man, John Duffy, it ties in nicely for me, even if it didn't for you. We were visiting, me and my partner were visiting him and his wife, Anne, a couple of years back now. And she plays in the Dalrymple Ukulele Orchestra, and my partner got quite into it while she was there as well, and bought a ukulele and came back, and I started playing it, and ended up getting quite excited about it, and bought my own. But because of how long this album took, because I had to do a course with work that ended up taking a lot of time, so this album ended up taking about 18 months, 2 years. The concept changed very much from the start of it to the end of it. And so by the end, where at the start of it I hadn't even really picked up a ukulele properly, and by the end I'd got a couple of songs that just worked really well, and others that I sort of put it into featuring for bits and pieces of it.
Interesting. Okay, so it's always been an instrument that you've been fairly interested to learn as well.
It's an instrument I've always found fun. I did have it. I did have one many years ago when I first sort of started playing guitar. I just sort of I can't remember whether it was a friend's or what happened to it, but I remember having one or having access to one, and yeah, just finding it fun and just uplifting. There's something inherently happy about them. And I don't know. That's just really nice. It adds something different to your songwriting when you can have that kind of different tonality.
Yep, I completely agree. To be honest, I think it's an instrument that sort of gets overlooked in quite a lot of music. You think you use a ukulele and it instantly sort of doesn't have a negative vibe about it, but it's certainly not used as much as it could be, and when people utilize it in the right way, I think it's definitely one that can be such a powerful instrument to make a positive outlook on an album. And obviously with your album, it's quite a positive album with the sort of love section to it as well. So I reckon the ukulele is a brilliant instrument for your sound.
Well, thank you. I mean, like I say, I just enjoy playing it. But I think one of the things that gets that with the ukulele in terms of people sort of like looking at it like that is because I think it's so accessible, so easy, that I think some of the what you might call proper musos end up sort of like looking down at it a little.
Okay, so moving on back onto the album, were there any songs on this album that took quite a long time to get right? I'm trying to think now. Yes, Tell Me How did actually that, and the Karma song both did. They were songs that I basically I've learnt recording as we've gone along with this. I'd done a B-sides album just sort of to start getting the process together in my head, but then this album was very much kind of still very much on the steep part of the learning curve with recording, and I'd sort of like started both of those, sent them off to Tim, my bassist, and he'd sent the bass back really excitedly, and then I kind of like realised, oh damn, that guitar sound is pretty bad actually, I need to replace that guitar. But I hadn't done it to a click because I was still too foolish not to have done it to a click or a drum loop. And so there's me trying to sort of like replace the guitar that's already a little bit out of time and sounds a bit duff with another guitar over the top, doing take after take, to try and do it. But yeah, eventually I got there. Obviously they're on the album, but yeah, because he'd sent me the bass tracks back so excitedly and they were such good bass tracks, I was kind of like, I can't ask him to do it again from scratch. So yeah, I spent a good afternoon on each of them getting new guitar takes, trying to be the same out of time as I was in the first place. It does sound like a bit of a nightmare, but you got it right in the end, which is the main thing.
Yeah, got there in the end, but yeah, there were a few times I was cussing those songs loud.
Don't worry, I won't get you to repeat what cussing words that you said about those songs.
I don't know what kind of age group your podcast goes out to, so I won't.
I think it's at an age restriction, as in like we would probably be fine. I'm actually, that's a point. if there are any under 18-year-olds, do give me a tweet at the Music Scout with a little underscore. We'll see how many people are actually under 18 and listen to this podcast. So that'll be quite interesting. So I just immediately assume that everyone is fine with swearing and things like that. But I spoke to an artist last week, and instantly they were sort of cussing and swearing. They went, "Oh, am I alright doing this?" I was like, "Yeah, it's fine." So let's touch on your touring and playing gigs. Have you been playing the new songs at all at your most recent gigs?
I have been, yeah, and they seem to be going down quite well. But I must admit, my gig list is a little bit thin at the minute. As I said earlier, I did a course with work, and I basically had to give up music for about a year. I'm not, give it up entirely. I was still playing to myself, but I couldn't play consistently enough to be good enough to play live. And so I just sort of like do little bits of recording on the album here and there whenever I had time, and just sort of like play around myself or at work whenever I had a bit of time. But yeah, and then I came to the end of it. And incidentally, for the first 3 months, I never had as many gig offers as when I first said, oh no, I can't do any gigs for a little while. Suddenly they came flooding in. Let me tell you, if you want gigs, just don't be able to do them, because you will get more offers than ever.
Interesting. There we go. To all the musicians out there, reject all the gigs you can.
And then I came to the end and I was kind of like, wow, I finished my course. Yes! Brilliant. Okay, everyone, I'm back. I can do gigs. And there was just tumbleweed. And I started like sending off all these emails to all the promoters that used to get gigs with. Oh no, I lost that venue. Oh no, I've had to retire. I'm going back to doing my work. And basically about 95% of the gig promoters I got regular gigs with, all gone. I was like, was I that important to the scene? What happened while I was gone? But they're still out there. The gigs are still out there. They've just switched to different people. I've just got to go out and meet these people again. So I'm just starting from scratch again, basically. But it's kind of fun going out, hitting the open mics, meeting new people. It's actually quite fun. But at the same time, yeah, when you've got an album to promote, a little frustrating. But in terms of actually getting to make new connections, meet new good souls, it's quite fun.
Yeah, it's basically getting back to square one, but with brand new songs, and obviously you'll see some people that you met last year when they came to your gigs, and obviously they've been in similar places. I'm sure they'll be delighted to see you again.
Oh, hopefully, yeah. I mean, I've got a short one on Wednesday, but I've got a couple of the festivals coming up in the summer. But yeah, I must admit it's a bit threadbare compared to what I'd normally expect it to be. But I'm starting to meet the people I need to meet. So given time.
Great. What festivals are you doing then?
I'm doing Woodfest, which is in. I always forget. There's two towns near each other called Earthlinborough and Irchester, and I can never remember which one it is. But
it's one of those.
People who are local will know which one it is. And yeah, it's a lovely little festival. They have 3 stages set in amongst woodland and this country park that's there. Really is a lovely place. Got a nice little cafe, and they have like local foods and stuff. And as well as a big beer tent where everyone can get drunk, there's also loads of people with chainsaws carving things. I never can understand whether that's a good combination, drunk people and chainsaws. But it seems to work, and so far no one's lost a limb.
Well, that's good. That's good to hear. So hopefully this won't be the year.
Hopefully I won't have jinxed it.
And what was the other festival that you were playing at?
I've actually yet to get this 100% confirmed, but I have been kind of offered it. The Bardic Picnic, which is in Northampton Town Centre. I believe this year it's at the Black Prince, but I can't remember actually exactly. I'm bad at this, aren't I? I need to get these things written down somewhere. But yeah, I had a friend of mine get in touch and say, oh, I'm involved with this year. Would you like to play? And I was, oh yeah, that'd be great. Thanks. And yeah, I need to sort of kind of get in touch and make sure that is actually happening, and where it's happening and when, because otherwise I'm just going to drive into town on a random day, turn up at a pub and go, you know, I'm here for this is pretty empty. Hello?
Hello.
Which wouldn't actually be the first time, to be fair, but
that does remind me of my blues rock and roll function band. Although it was worse than that. We turned up for a gig, and we went through the door, and we thought, we can hear a bass, and we looked through the door, and this other band had set up ready to go.
Oh, awesome!
Obviously, we didn't need that much time to set up. So if the gig was at if the gig was at 9, we'd probably be there about 7:45 or 8 o'clock. So we only really needed not even that, maybe 8:15. It used to really annoy the venue staff because they thought that the band wasn't coming up. The amount of calls that I got saying, "Are you actually coming?" It's like, yeah, no, we only take half an hour to set up. It's fine. And then we turned up and there was another band there. Ironically, they were called what were they called? Something like, it wasn't Steel Panther, not something along those lines, but they were basically an 80s cover band, and they genuinely had a wind machine for the lead singer, who had very long white hair.
Oh wow! I don't know whether that's the best thing ever or the worst. I'm not sure.
It's a combination. It depends
how they pull it off.
Yeah, it's a combination of two, really, and also the mixed emotions I was going through at that point. Just thought, we're not playing tonight, but at the same time, that dude's hair is amazing. So we're going to close the interview there. I'm going to give you 1 minute to just tell the people what is coming up for you in the near future, your album, and basically the floor is yours, and then we will close the show off there.
Oh, well, thanks. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I've obviously got the new album Love, Light, Dark and Death coming out. That's being released on Friday the 13th of July. I decided on not caring about the bad luck. Yeah, that's going to be out on all platforms. It's available to pre-order now on my Bandcamp. If you search Lew Bear, I'll come up, but there's also lewbear.co.uk. Yeah, not much comes up if you search Lew Bear, except for some random gamer and a UFC wrestler, I think. So you should be fairly safe. You'll know who is who, because while I'm big enough to wrestle, I'm too soft.
I said the floor was yours, and you're making me laugh half the time. I've got some interesting videos coming out, particularly one for Shine a Light. I decided, they're sort of professional, but they're not really professional. And Shine a Light is basically, because it's about mental health, I've made it about men's mental health, because I've suffered in the past. And it kind of struck me, I don't dance. So many men say that, I don't dance. And I've said it as well. And I thought, is this why we suffer so much mental health? Not just because we don't dance, but because what does that represent? We don't express ourselves. We're afraid to express ourselves. We're afraid to express love. We're afraid to express fear. We're afraid to cry. All of these things. We're afraid to dance, because if we do these things, if we open up, then maybe someone will take the mickey out of us, and then we'll, and so I thought, right, sod it, I'm going to dance. And I have. And I've got a lot of other people to dance as well. And we all look like fools, but we don't care. Or at least I hope everyone else doesn't care. Otherwise, they wouldn't have sent me a video, surely. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, but hopefully it will send a good message out as well. Oh, that's really cool. That's a great note to finish on as well.
So yeah, that video should be out in the next few days. I've just been finishing off the last few little bits of editing with it this evening. So any day now, that should pop up.
All right, well, make sure you go check out the video for Shine a Light, and thank you very much, Lew Bear, for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Well, the shepherd loved his daughter. She was the fairest in the land. The prince was throwing a ball, so shepherd cooked up a plan. But he was missing a key ingredient. Well, the plan had to be perfect. His daughter deserved the best. So he called on the Dark Lord. Rumpelstiltskin, Rumpelstiltskin, oh yeah. And poof, old Rumpel, he appeared. Little twinkle in his eye. Rumpelstiltskin, bless her, so she'll become a queen. He said, oh, magic comes at a price, and it may seem obscene. And old Shep, he hung his head. He didn't have much to spend. But Rumple said, I don't want your gold. For cash I have no need, but I'll take your next male child. To which the shepherd agreed. And old Shep, he stood back and watched as Rumple did his magical thing. A little smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Rumpelstiltskin, I have tricked you. My wife is now barren, and if she can't have my child, then you can't take my son. Old Rumple, he let out a little smile of his own, and with a flash, he was gone. Shepherd went home to his wife. He said, I've news that'll fill you with glee. She said, let me tell mine first. I'm expecting, can't you see?